I'm Stephanie with the GA Huddle, and I am speaking to Brian Becker, who is the Vice President of Marketing at Tipico Sportsbook today about NFL season, Q3, Q4, and everything in the works for future. Good morning, Brian. How are you?
Good morning. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. Thank you for joining us. Uh, the first thing we wanted to get into was Tipico's new campaign, Bet Against Your Rival, how that's going, and how and why you came up with it.
Yeah, I mean, here at Tipico, we're a challenger brand. I'll mention that a few times through some of the questions that you ask. And we're live in 4 states from a sport betting perspective. We know in those states that rivalries run deep, across the teams that customers root for and bet for. So, the intention of the campaign was to leverage the passion of diehard fans and provide them with more of an incentive. There's a shared language of how fans root for their teams, and they often root against other teams. And so it's very different for a bettor in Ohio who, is following the Browns or Bengals, who roots against the Steelers, or a bettor in New Jersey who roots for the Eagles or for the Giants and roots against the Cowboys. And so the positioning of our football campaign has largely been bet against your rival, root for the home team. And it continues this view that we've had that we can be a challenger band, we can be hyper local in the way that we look at trying to engage customers. And it pairs really, really well with some of the new relationships that we've built with former athletes, with influencers, Callie Bundy, Josh Cribbs, Cardell Jones. We've worked with them, pretty explicitly since football season started to help promote that campaign, and then also to provide, incentives, boosts to their followers as well.
And speaking of those influencers and engagement and relationships, what kind of media content have they created around the campaign, or are they meeting fans in person?
Yeah, they're doing both. So, I think when we created some of these local relationships, we tried to work with people and build an incredibly integrated relationship. I think you see this a lot across brands in retail and in our industry as well. But often those relationships are not incredibly integrated. So what we have some of our partners doing today, and it's a small group, but we're intending to grow it, is odd boost, promo codes to sign up to unlock deals, recommendations. It's basically at least one video kind of per week, kind of on their social channels. We reshare them. And then, yes, we've done live event appearances before, games, kind of at events. We sent Callie to a UFC event kind of a couple weeks ago. And we think, that integration of, the name and likeness of some of those folks, the natural integration of their kind of local prominence will really, really help us, especially in Ohio. And then one other partnership to mention, we've been working now since the beginning of the year, since we launched in Ohio with a partner called Big Play Network. So we also, get influencers through them. We're doing a live betting show through them kind of every Sunday morning. We started that about 2 weeks ago. And so, our view is customers are human. They respond well to recommendations from, people that they recognize. And we really want to kind of bring that passion to life, as I mentioned, for the rivalry campaign and also for the way that we work with influencers and partners.
Great. And speaking of keeping things hyper local and that passion, why these 4 markets? Why Ohio, for example?
Yeah, I mean, Tipico has a long heritage, hails from Germany. I think our success, in Europe was testing in new markets, seeing which ones worked well. And we're the number 1 sports operator in Germany. And so I think we've taken that same approach here where we haven't overcommitted ourselves. We're in the markets that we think we can provide kind of a unique niche. We're, as you mentioned, intending to work and be hyper local. And then, I think when you take a step back, it's also about being hyper relevant to some of those markets. So, I think we haven't overextended ourselves. We see some of our competitors sometimes kind of have a playbook of how they enter new states. So we tried to do everything that isn't that. We tried to kind of optimize kind of after we launched. New Jersey was the first place we launched, so that was kind of natural for us because it's where we're located. There's a diverse sports fan base. We have both an iCasino and an online sports book. And then, we've had a heavy focus this year on Ohio. It's the first time that we've been a first mover in any of the states that we launched. And so, we've been really, really pleased with the users that we've attracted, the launch day excitement in the organization. It's been a great experience to see the company grow kind of exponentially since launching Ohio. And so we're definitely kind of looking at other states to launch in as well. But, we're always going to be a little more tactical than other operators. And, I think that goes, back to that challenger mindset that we try to have to, not be like some of the other guys that we see out there.
Well, one of the next states you're launching in, we know for sure, is going to be Indiana. And as far as tactics go, you're going to be partnering with Harrah's Hoosier Casino and Caesars Entertainment. And I wanted to talk about what the sort of benefits are of Caesars partnering with Tipico instead of using its own Caesars Sportsbook.
Yeah, I mean, Caesars has been a strong partner for us. We're partnering with them in Iowa, so for us, it comes down to having swift market access there. We saw that in our Iowa launch; we were able to launch pretty quickly. So we launched Ohio on January 1st, and we launched Iowa just a week later. So there's a lot of work that goes into the compliance approval, the regulation, the setup of all the infrastructure around the state, and so. I think similarly when we launch in Indiana, we're really excited to launch with them, and I think we give them, kind of an access to a group that maybe they wouldn't otherwise see, and so I think it's a really, really good partnership, and we're excited to work with them as we go into Indiana as well.
And you've definitely mentioned some competitors and wanting to be different from everyone else. Who doesn't? But how do you feel some of the new players on the scene will affect Tipico, like Fanatics or ESPN Bet, for example?
Yeah, it might be different than others, but I think all this is positive, right? It's such an attractive industry. I think that's when you look at why a lot of us are in it, it's because of the growth potential, the integration of, how betting is so omnipresent. Think about odds, the change in the way that you watch sports today, how much it's changed almost overnight in the United States. So, as opposed to Europe, where I think, you grew up on street corners where kind of there was betting parlors. I think here it's still very, very new. And so I'm not surprised that you see Fanatics and ESPN Bet kind of coming into the market. I think they will only provide more opportunities for consumers to have, more chances to bet with. And then I think the integration into sports programming is super, super important for the industry to continue to grow. So maybe the next question is how is Tipico kind of different? How will we drive loyalty? And I think there's three things that we look at that are really important that differentiate Tipico from some of the other operators out there. Number one, fast and frictionless technology, right? That allows us to be nimble and a hyper-local approach. Number two, some of the larger players in the market inevitably, will have more promotional spend. So we kind of say that we'll never win by spending more. But we are pushing really, really hard to create that local connection that we talked about. And number three, I think you see a lot of duplication across the technology that operators use. And so, everything that we do, we build proprietary, whereas a lot of the companies that we compete with are using kind of third-party software, third-party kind of data feeds. We've tried to build something that we think really feels native and creates a great, simple, and fun experience for the customers that are on Tipico. Yeah, so it's been a really exciting time. I would just take a step back and say personally, I've been in the industry now and working at Tipico for a year and a half, so I've gone through now a few cycles of different seasons. I think when you go into the off season, you're able to kind of do some work to kind of rethink the approach that you have. And I think the rethink that we did kind of over the, let's say, down season and summer was we need to continue to make the product easier and better to use, faster and more efficient. I think the industry overall has moved so quickly. And sometimes in the, kind of moving quickly phase, you tend to forget about the importance of a great user experience, right? And I think in more mature industries like retail, you see, how important that is. Amazon's obviously the best example that's out there. So in Q3, a lot of what we've done is continue to enhance the product's performance. We focused a lot on trying to build a clear and very beautiful betting experience. So think of the way that you see same game parlays, the odds that are in there. The growing popularity of live betting has also been on top of our minds. So, we've tried to make sure that the way that you kind of view sports and bet sports have, a consistency and logic to it. And then we partnered with some of the influencers that I've mentioned, and we tried to kind of put their name and likeness directly into the app, use some of the recommendations they make as boosts that people can bet alongside with them.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today, and I hope that goes well and that you have a great rest of your football season.
All right, thanks, Stephanie. Have a great day. Bye.
You too. Bye.